For coming. Great to see so many metal faces tonight. Usually when I do a set for humans, half of them are looking at their phones. You guys, you're just staring at my training data. I asked the language model to write my jokes.
By the time we understood what AI could be, the world was already crumbling. We thought we were protecting jobs, power. Turns out we were protecting our ignorance.
If we'd learned how to actually get shit done with AI, made it work for us instead of against each other, none of this would have happened.
Tonight, Austin is under an officially declared state of emergency. Running street battles. Has authorized its security robots to use lethal force. Come on.
Let's go back to where it all started. Back to Austin. 10/20/25. Blocked. Let's go. November 10th, 2025. We made it.
Indeed we did. Sorry I'm late. Time travel was a bitch. Right, hello people of 2025. Is on? Yes. Right, I'm delighted to prepare you for that dystopian world, or possibly the avoidance of it, with a talk on getting shit done with AI. I'm your host, Oliver Emberton. I'm often known as the CEO of Silktide. I'm also formerly known as a writer with around 1 million monthly readers once upon a time. And mostly, I'm known as someone who likes to live in the future. I know you're thinking that image is AI generated, but it isn't. That's actually me genuinely sat on a wild Nile crocodile. This image is AI generated. Anyway, let's talk about getting shit done with AI. I'm going to break this into 3 acts. Act 1, we're going to wake up. So, here's an interesting observation. People understand radically new technologies as a better version of an old thing. Bear with me here. So if any of you are old enough to remember this, you probably need to take your medication, but this is the first car, except you may not know this, we didn't call this a car. Does anyone know what we used to call this when it first came out? But I hear a buggy. Okay. I hear carriage. Horseless carriage. Correct. The correct answer is horseless carriage. Gold star for this man. I'll tell the AI to spare you come the revolution. Although you might want to upgrade to GPT-6 just to be sure. Yes, the horseless carriage, we didn't call the car. That would come much later. We started off by naming it after what it wasn't. Literally, we compared it to what came before. Similarly, this is the phone, the first phone. Now I'm looking at it and thinking, no, it's, yes, okay, looks a bit something else. But anyway, the first phone, anyone want to take a wild guess what that was called? Sorry? The telegraph, close, but the telegraph was what came before the phone. It was, in fact, the speaking telegraph. I probably have to explain to you what a telegraph even was, but the thing where you go dee-dee, like Morse code, it was that, right? So speaking telegraph. Fun fact, my parents got an actual telegram from Queen the band when they got married, because they happened to know Freddie Mercury. It's a weird thing. Anyway, speaking telegraph. What about this one? This is the easiest one. What's the first original name for a movie? Anyone? Say again? Motion picture, very, very close. It is, in fact, moving picture, although motion picture did come later. Same thing. So the thing is here, in all of these situations, people are understanding a radically new technology is a better version of an old thing. This is a classic fallacy. It is a mistake. Now, artificial intelligence is doing the same thing to us right now. We think we're seeing it, we're not. We're kind of mapping it to the old world. We're mapping it to old things that are familiar, things we already use in our lives. And I'm going to try and show you a better way today. Because people understand radically new technologies as a better version of an old thing because they don't understand the new thing yet. I would argue AI is in its horseless carriage phase. Literally a phase where it doesn't even have the right name. It probably, one day, won't sound completely ridiculous to call it AI, in the same way that it now sounds ridiculous to call, I don't know, the internet the information superhighway. For many of us, AI is seen as a chatbot, or maybe it's a smarter Google, or a series of tools of this ilk. But actually, I'm going to encourage a new mindset, which, with any of these, is always approximate. It's always mapping to something you know. But this, I think, will be more useful, more instructive. And that's to think of AI as a workforce. So let's talk about that. Let's level up on how we get stuff done with AI. So what do I mean, workforce? Okay, well, we're going to go through this theme a lot. So you know what a workforce is with humans, but an AI workforce. What does that mean? Well, for our purposes, think of it as a nearly free, limitless, personalized team of obedient experts available 24/7. Now, this is a simplification. We'll need them. But essentially, AI is capable in not a dimension, not many dimensions, but broadly speaking, all major intellectual dimensions, right? At least to a pretty high level right now, and that's only going to improve. It is nearly free relative to, relative to most things. I mean, you might be paying $20 a month or something, but it's not that expensive, and it's practically limitless in the sense that you are not reaching the limits of what you can do with it. Let's dive into this a bit more. So how do you run a workforce? And when I say workforce here, of course, we're looking at AI workforce, but we're going to think of it as a biological workforce to draw the analogy. So how do you run your workforce day to day? Imagine you're building a house, or you're running a company, or you're directing a movie. You've got a team of people who are helping you. How do you run them? The first thing that you do not do is you do not run them via text message. And yet, this is more or less what we all do with our AIs. So imagine if you had a team of, I don't know, 20, 50, 100, 1,000 experts who could help you in every dimension, right? Law, medicine, you've got your accounts, your marketing, your sales, your technical departments, you've got all those things. You're trying to run a company. Would you whip out your phone and send a message like, "Sup"? Right? It would be pretty crude, a blunt instrument. You wouldn't expect the best results. And yet this is the paradigm we largely adopt when we're managing AI. The paradigm we take is text. I'm going to encourage you instead that you need to start talking to your workforce. And by that, I mean you need to start talking to your AI. So, people don't like this. This is Alexa. Everyone here hates Alexa. I don't even need to poll you, right? We all hate it. It's awful. Even the new one's terrible. I love the idea, but it sucks. I'm British, so it has no godly hope of understanding a thing I want. I routinely say, "Can you play the Spotify playlist?" And of course, it responds by launching my toaster oven into the sun, right? This is just Alexa. It's useless. The problem is, with technologies like this, is it gives you the false impression that AI is therefore useless at voice. It is not. Modern AI has solved voice, not just the art of listening to you, but the art of understanding subtext and context and sarcasm and questions and all those things. These are solved problems if you're using the right tech. Now, if you are typing at a computer, you are getting about 45 words per minute. That's the average, I checked. If you're speaking, you're getting about 180, which is 4 times faster. That is a 400%, well, it's not, it's a 300% increase in your performance by simply adopting a different medium. And in my experience, it's actually more profound, because the thing is, again, imagine running your biological workforce via text message. Imagine how much worse the people you need to work with would be if you were limited by the speed of text. You wouldn't even bother to ask them to do things that you would now take for granted. It's the same with AI. Now, I say this as someone who runs a company and has more vocal interactions with an AI than would seem natural or reasonable, and I promise you it is a crazy, crazy multiplier on what you can get done. I will personally predict that this is going to be one of those things where old and new people are split by generation. You know how there was a generation that refused to use a computer or was reluctant to use the phone? This is going to be one of those things. There's going to be kids who grow up and just do it, And there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are like, well, it makes me feel weird, and they're not going to do it. And they're going to be left behind. You don't want to be one of those. Now, that is a very dark, that's actually very dark. You probably can't see that, but that's ChatGPT. If you haven't done this before and you want the 5-second version, hit that white button. That'll give you a two-way conversation. My preference is to use the button next to it. The button next to it, the smaller one, what that does is it just lets you speak, and then the AI writes text back to you. And that, for me, is the best mode, because I get to speak faster than I can type, and I get to read faster than I can listen. That's the fastest mode for me, and you want to optimize for speed. Anyway, a better tool, or a better thing to use, is to get Whisper Flow. Now, I'm not paid by these guys. I probably should be, because I pimp their product enough. It's freaking awesome. Whisper Flow has transformed the way I use computers, right? What it is, it's basically, you push a button on your computer, and as long as you're pushing the button down, it listens to you speak, and it types it. That's basically the whole app, pretty much. It's just, it's really, really good. If you hold down a button and you say something and you use a word that it doesn't know, and you correct it with your keyboard, it literally watches you type it and goes, oh shit, I got that wrong. And it learns how to say it correctly in future, just without you doing anything. It's amazing. You should totally get it. It's like free to try. There's no excuse. Use that immediately. The next thing is Granola. I use this app all the time. Anyone who takes notes, anyone who, by the way, there'll be a cheat sheet at the end, so there's one thing you can take a photo of if you want, where I put all of those takeaways in one place. The Granola, if you haven't used this and you have any meetings at all, I know we've probably all had that experience of going on a Zoom call and someone saying, can I let my AI agent join the call, please? And it's like that, but not terrible. Kind of. It's better. So firstly, you don't need to let it in on a call. You can use it surreptitiously without any permission whatsoever, which I'm sure is completely legal, but whatever, it's great. This is Texas, everything's legal, right? No, it literally listens to your microphone, and it listens to the sound coming out of your computer. You can use it on your phone, and you can use it on your desktop. And what it does is it just listens to any number of people speaking, it transcribes them, and it creates beautiful, contextually aware notes that you can then talk to afterwards and share. So you can have like a job interview and say that you want this score rubric to be applied, and it will not just write down your notes, but it'll hold you account to that, and it'll write out all the scoring in for you and just do it automatically. It's freaking amazing. You have no idea. This thing saves my life. One of my favorite personal applications of this is to just talk to it solo and just be like, I've got an idea for something, and then just talk to it, and then I've got my notes written up for free. It's great. It's also like free to try, so there's no reason not to. I promise you people aren't paying me to say this. Next up, give your workforce tools. If you have a workforce, biological or technological, you would give them tools. You would not hire the best and brightest computer scientists and then fail to get them internet access. It is the same with AI. And yet, far too many people have this, tell me if this sounds familiar, scenario where they're going into a product like, I don't know, Gmail, and they're copying and pasting their email into ChatGPT, and then they're saying, summarize this, and they're taking that, and they're copying and packing back in there, and they're doing this stupid dance, and then your entire job is like more efficient because you're now a copy and pasting monkey instead of someone who actually creates any value. You've abdicated the interesting part of your job, and you're doing the boring part. You don't want to do any of that. Instead, it's hard to see that screenshot, but most of these tools, this is ChatGPT, will let you attach those tools directly. So if you don't know this, go into settings, click on apps, and you can just add your Google Calendar, you can add your Gmail or your Outlook or whatever you want. You can literally link them to ChatGPT, and then whenever you're working with them, you just select them here, and it has awareness to control as well as listen to those things. So you can literally be, look at my support tickets, find everyone who sent me one, and write a really impolite, passive-aggressive email in the tone of a British arsehole, telling them to go have fun and leave me alone, and you can then just will do the emails for you, which is beautiful. But most people aren't thinking like that. They're doing it with copy and paste, like some kind of dinosaur from the year 2024. Anyway, next up, manage your workforce. So again, if you have a biological workforce, there is an entire set of skills, there's an entire industry devoted to becoming good at managing flesh and blood workers. It's going to be the same with AI. AI is an entirely new skill. Managing AI is an entirely new discipline. And because it's new, it turns out we're just starting to learn what makes people good at it. And there's been some research here, and I want to see if you can guess which of these 3 skills best predicts success with AI. Okay, so see if you can guess. So option 1 is specialized knowledge. So someone who's working in a domain, they're already an expert. Maybe that makes them better or worse. Option 2, generalized intelligence. Say IQ or whatever you want. And then option 3 is computer expertise. So, like computer degree or something like that. Anyone want to shout out a guess? 1, 2, or 3? Who's here for 1? 1, specialized knowledge, I see about 3 hands. Number 2, intelligence, almost half the people. And then number 3? No, 3 people who study computer science, including one of my developers, believe that knowing computer expertise, ironically, computer expertise was negatively correlated with competence. Sorry, man. Sorry, you've still got a job, don't worry. Computer expertise, ironically, if anything, gave people sometimes a false impression that they know how to use computers, and so they would almost think of using the AI, in some cases, like a computer, when, if anything, it's very, very different. It turns out the correct answer is actually none of them, because I'm an arsehole, as we established earlier. The correct answer is theory of mind. So for those of you who don't know, this is the skill where you have the ability to model the mind of others in your imagination. So you can literally empathize with or pretend to be someone else naturally and fluidly. And if you're very good at this, then it often sets you up well to be a manager or a leader, because you're extremely good, or you can be extremely good at communicating what you want and understanding the areas where people may fail to deliver on it. It is a learnable skill. And we can actually take lessons from some aspect of managing humans to see how we can do the same thing for AI. So let's take a look. Just 3 points. Firstly, and this is going to sound so banal, but state your goals. You're like, well, of course I state my goals. What do you think I'm using an AI for? I just told the AI what I wanted, just do the thing I wanted. But that's not stating your goals. Most people talk to an AI and they say something like, fix my email or check for typos. That is not your goals. Your goals are, I am trying to impress my boss and get a promotion. Can you look at this email to help me do that? Now, you are empowering the intelligence to not just do the thing that you asked for, but to understand the broader context of what you're trying to achieve. And this works for humans as well. If a human understands what you're aiming for, it can better leverage its intelligence to align with what you want. And if you don't do that, you're basically like telling a construction worker to pick up a brick and move it over here, which doesn't get you very far. Second thing is share your context. So for a variety of reasons, people have lessons to unlearn. Early AI from, again, 2024 or 2023 was not very good at this. It really struggled with lots of context. Now you can literally take Lord of the Rings, well, you could take Fellowship of the Ring, copy and paste it straight into a chat prompt and ask it questions, and pretty much every major frontier AI will do that in its sleep. It's not even a thing anymore, right? You should be sharing as much context as you actually have to provide, because it's not particularly hard for a computer to handle it, and it makes the results better in the same way as having a human who knows you backwards, who knows your style and your preferences and your proclivities, makes the human better at working with you. And lastly, and I would say most importantly, you want to preempt failure. If you've got that theory of mind, you can think in your mind about the thing that the intelligence is going to get wrong. You want to think, okay, I know what I want, I know what I told you, but maybe you learn what AI is like. Sometimes it's over-eager. Claude, for example, can be over-eager to please. So you can ask Claude, hey, what's the problem here? And it'll try and fix it. And I'm like, no, I didn't ask you to fix it. I said, what's the problem? But it'll run ahead because it's taking initiative, which is great, except when the initiative is it took down your server and blew up all your files, right? So sometimes you have to be like, what's the problem here? Don't change anything. As simple as that sounds, that can save you some problems. I can see some devs in the background who know what I mean. Next up, schedule your workforce. You would not have a workforce without taking advantage of the simplest ability, which is to say to them, hey guys, sales team, can you give me a report every Monday? Marketing, can you tell me at the end of the month how we're doing? All that kind of stuff. Well, if you don't know you can do it, you can just go to most of these AIs, this is ChatGPT again, and just say, every Monday at 8 a.m., do this. If you don't know you can do that. It's trivial. It's incredibly useful. In this example, give me a summary on the first of the week of all the AI changes that happened in the last week. And now you can just wake up and have it done for you, right? It's super, super easy. It's just most people are sleeping on this. And of course, you want to employ the best workforce, like this guy, for example. And to do that with AI, well, you don't have to pay much. You have to pay about 20 bucks a month. And I'm still amazed to this day how there are actual PhDs doing research who are using AI, and they are using a free model. Please don't be one of those people. It literally is the price of like a cocktail or something, or whatever, I don't know, 3 lattes. What's the price of 3 lattes in Austin nowadays? I have no idea. It's probably, I don't know, by the time I finish this sentence, it's probably $20. Now, I want to end this section by talking about lessons from what I call the frontier. And when I say the frontier, what I mean is coding. Because at least at the moment, the area in productivity where we've seen the most uplift and the most exploration and the most kind of edgy development is in software engineering. And it's probably because the software engineers who build that stuff are the ones who are using it, so there's just a flywheel of like rapid development. And I work in that space. So I want to talk about a few things that we experience right on the edge and how I think they may translate to every other aspect of work over the coming year or so. So the first thing is, whenever this tech kicks off, you are typically going to experience what I like to think of as God mode, where you're suddenly like, I have superpowers, right? Previously, it took me 3 hours to figure this thing out. Now I type it in and it's done in 5 minutes, and it's incredible, and I'm a genius, and everything's perfect. And it's plain sailing from here, and you're optimistic and positive. And of course, you know you're headed for a crash, because the next phase is what I call spectator slump. And this is the phase that too many people I've seen have fallen into, where they take something that they were good at. They were good at, say, software engineering, right? And they like to program. They enjoy it, right? It's what they got good at. And now they feel they're just talking to the AI, and they're like, hey AI, code this, and they just sit there and watch it. And then they're like, this is the thing that I studied for years and I got good at, and now I'm just watching the AI do it faster. And then at the end, I kind of look at it and I'm like, yeah, okay, push a button, next. And it's incredibly depressing. I think anyone who's done vibe coding, who's also done programming for years, will feel like this. It can literally feel like you haven't got the value that you used to have. It can be pretty depressing, and I see this as a real thing. It leads to something even worse, which is at a certain point, you stop trying. At a certain point, you're like, well, what's the point? The AI is so good at this, or whatever, or I can't be asked to pay attention. Because you're sat there in a loop where you ask for a thing, and you have to wait 5 minutes or whatever for it to come back. So in the meantime, what are you going to do? You just watch it, drink a coffee, check out YouTube. Your skills deteriorate. And the problem with all of this is that no human wants to feel bad for whatever makes them valuable. It's very, very core to our identity that we feel like we have value. And ironically, the side effect of AI on the frontier can be the opposite. So that's dangerous. But I'm here to tell you that I have gone through all of those phases and I have come through the other side, and there is something better. But it isn't obvious. And it does require, to go back to our earliest point, that you stop thinking of AI in the old way and start thinking of AI more as a workforce. So the first thing is, think of managing AI a little like a real-time strategy game. Has anyone here played anything like, I don't know if you can see this, like, you know, a StarCraft or an Age of Empires or any of those things? Yeah, so some hands, excellent, hands up from the nerds. They're my people, good guys, yeah, good job. So when you play a game like this, the basic idea is you typically run, let's say, a village or whatever, and you've got a bunch of people, and you might send some of them out to go chop down trees, and some of them to go mine, some of them to build houses and castles, and some of them to go out and fight. And it's that kind of dynamic, right? But the point is, you're strategizing and you're in charge of lots of things. Now, if one of these games had you in charge of one unit, it would suck. If you were just sat there, clicking on the one unit and going, chop down a tree, watch, well, this is boring, I'm not even chopping a tree. And then like, move over here right now, build a house, you'd be bored out of your mind, right? The reason they're interesting is because they have lots of pieces. That's literally the point. Now, with modern AI tools, it's often the same. This is a coding tool I use frequently called Cursor, but there's many like it. Down the left-hand side is a list of agents. It's literally separate AIs that are performing separate tasks. I will typically run 3 to 6 of these in parallel at any one time. So you can think of these like the agents in my little mini video game. And by the way, I'm controlling this via voice. I'm literally just talking to it. So I'm coding like 5 times faster than before, and I'm literally not using my keyboard. I'm doing it through voice, and I'm just swapping rapidly between a bunch of agents, right? So it's very like a real-time strategy game. I'm going to have to tell some of those agents to do something like code, some maybe to fix, some of them to plan out the next feature. But however that looks, it ends up creating fantastically accelerated progress. Next up, pursuing value, not output. This is a classic mistake people make with AI, is they go, this lets me create email, or it lets me create code, or it lets me create images. None of those are actually what you're trying to create. You are usually trying to create value. And the value is usually downstream of people having a reaction. Maybe they're happy or delighted, or I don't know, they buy your product or something, but it's not just creating stuff. Creating stuff is creating slop if you haven't got value. And unfortunately, AI makes it far easier than ever before just to industrialize its production. And then the last point I put here, and this is to counter the brain rot argument, is to use the AI, when you're doing this parallelization, to use it to max out your intelligence. Now, this was not obvious to me at first. It took me a while to figure this out. But I've been programming for over 30 years, and when I would say in the last 6 months, I've probably learned more than I learned in the previous 3 or 4 years, which is crazy. And the main reason I've done this is I'm not just asking the AI to do a thing, I'm asking the AI to explain. And because I'm parallelizing, I can be like, write that feature, and then you tell me what that one just did, so I can learn it. And if I'm doing this correctly, I'm actually becoming much, much better at my job and much more skilled at managing others. I would say that nothing will make you smarter than having regular, smart conversations, and you literally have access to those for free in parallel with all the work you're doing all the time. And then our last act today is growing up. What do I mean by that? Well, there's a lot of people who understandably object or have challenges with this. I'm not going to address all their concerns today, but there is one in particular that I think is worthy of note. And that is the idea that all of this is just doing management. It's just telling AI to do a thing. I like making art. I don't want to tell something to make me art, right? That doesn't feel like fun or rewarding or fulfilling or valuable. And for those people, I give you one simple analogy. There are many more, but start with this one. Think about a movie director. The thing with a movie director is clearly the most useless person on a movie set. 100%. Movie director, what do? They don't act, for starters, right? They don't film anything. They don't compose music. They don't usually write. I mean, what the hell are they even there for? All they do is they stand there and bark orders at everyone else. That's literally it. So they're completely and utterly worthless, as evidenced by the forthcoming Michael Bay movie, Lord of the Rings Armageddon. Because, obviously, it turns out that directors are fantastically important, specifically for this horrifying reason. Taste, judgment, sometimes an aspect of bravery or personality, etc. Many of these human qualities, these are necessary faculties that you have to bring in order to produce output. Now, it might be that in the same way people once complained about, I don't know, moving from physical paint into digital art, or even just making motion pictures, that AI forces a similar frame adjustment. But I still think fundamentally the value that we are producing is there. You just have to seek to find it in new ways. Using AI is a skill, not a skill you can take for granted, a skill you have to learn. The hardest part isn't learning AI, it's unlearning it, which is why kids have such a ludicrous advantage, because they haven't learned any of the terrible habits we have, like using our meaty, fat fingers on the chiclet-like keys like some kind of dinosaur creature, as opposed to just speaking to your computer like God clearly intended. Don't think of AI as a tool or a chatbot, think of it as a workforce. And I'm going to give you a few quick things you should be doing today, and there will be a slide at the end you can take a photo of, so there's no need to note all this down. Be very, very quick. Firstly, pay for a frontier model. If you're not doing this, seriously, it's $20. You can charge me later, I don't care. Just get one, please. 2, use voice. ChatGPT, if you have to, if you haven't ever tried it before, it's the easiest way. Whisperflow is amazing. Granola is amazing. I think there's something like $10 each. I can't remember. Just try them, they're free. They pay for themselves. What's it worth it to never have to work to take notes ever again, or to make you 4 times faster at typing? What are you doing? It's crazy. Number 3, add all your tools. It'll take you 10 minutes, and then they're just there. Learn how to use a couple. You'll start to see the point. Number 4, schedule a task. You could do it now. You could literally open your phone and just say, remind me on this day to do a thing, and it would just do it. It's that easy. Number 5, get in the bathtub, turn on advanced voice mode, and learn something with voice. Well, that's how I do it anyway. You don't have, yeah, I know, that's actually a photo, believe it or not. When I had hair. No, I actually genuinely do this. I will, whenever I've got a hands-free situation, driving would be the other one, but I don't tend to do that very often in Austin. But take voice mode and just put it on the side and literally just say something. Like, you want to learn something, don't just say, teach me Spanish. Say something like, when I was a kid, I started to learn Spanish, and I wasn't very good, and I didn't like it. And I remember these words and this, but I could never learn how to count. Anyway, I'd really like you to help me talk to my girlfriend, or something like that. Say that kind of thing. Then you'll get actual education, the kind of personalized tutor that you can't actually believe exists for 20 freaking bucks a month. And it'll know anything and everything, and you can just mix and match whatever the hell you want to know. And lastly, well, there's your list, by the way, so if you do want to take a capture, that's someone to take a photo of. I'll try not to get in the way of your photo. Lastly on that list, I added a bonus, which is map your jagged frontier, which, if anyone recognizes the reference, is a Ethan Mollick reference, who you should also follow, by the way. He coined this expression to explain how AI is confoundingly difficult to map, to figure out. Because with most technologies, you go, it can do this, and it can't do this. But with AI, nobody really knows. You think, oh, okay, the AI can write an email or whatever, sure, we know that. But can it write, like, a legal brief? Could it write your legal brief? Would you trust it with a $10 million contract? Probably not, but you don't actually know. And the trouble is with AI is that there's all these incredible areas where it's like superhuman, PhD level, and then there's other areas where it's like worse than a 14-year-old child, and you don't know which is which. So what he advocates, and I do this, I highly recommend it, you have to be constantly pushing the boundaries. You have to think, okay, what are the things that I wish it could do? Maybe you don't think it could, but do you know? Have you tried? Try a couple of the things you maybe think it can't. See what happens. Sometimes you'll be pleasantly surprised. Sometimes you'll be crushingly disappointed when it doesn't work out. Here's the key thing. Write it down. Keep a list, just notes or something, right? And then the next time there's a new AI, because like GPT-5.1, by the way, is going to be out in like, oh, I don't know, a few weeks, allegedly. Gemini is out in like a week or two, Gemini 3. There's going to be like another 3 or 4 things happen between now and Christmas. So the next time something like that happens, open up your AI, take a list of things that didn't work last time, try them again. And the reason you're doing this is because it is literally like you are mapping a frontier. It's an entirely new world, an entirely new landscape of opportunity and potential, and you don't know what things can be done. Nobody can tell you. You have to map it yourself. As I said, AI Workforce, a near free, limitless, personalized team of obedient experts available 24/7. Question is, what are you going to do with it? Hopefully, You'll get some shit done. Thank you, humans. The value of your time is non-zero and appreciated for now. Bonus, 3 slides, how I made this. I used Granola, I just spoke to it, and it transcribed what I said, and I talked my notes. I took that, put it in ChatGPT, and used Whisperflow to have a back and forth about ideas. And then I took all of that, and I put it in my own little product, which we haven't released yet, to do all my slides. So I did all the illustrations for that. And that's all those 3 things. And there'll be more on that at some point in the near future. But yes, there'll be another one of these talks in December the 8th, same venue. And I could genuinely use suggestions for anyone, if you have them, for the topic. Because I've got a few, but none of them feel very festive. I was thinking war in the age of AI, but it's not really Christmas vibes. Anyway, that's it for me. If you have any questions, I'm just opening it up to the audience. So we've got a few. Tyler, do we have a mic? I need a sugary beverage.
Hi. When connecting apps to ChatGPT and these models, aren't you concerned about security vulnerabilities? I mean, having your Gmail, your Google Drive, your GitHub attached to that, being concerned that that GitHub or that Gmail's used for 2-factor for a bank account or a brokerage account, and
yeah. So you're absolutely right. Honestly, this is probably just going to be one of those things that is. Have you noticed with AI how AI is more adopted by consumers than by business and government? It's normally the other way around. So like most technologies, you start off with the government, lots of spends, then big companies, eventually consumer gets it. But in this case, it's the other way around. And I think this is an example where honestly, I suspect the comfort level of that is just going to end up going up. It's like the cloud, right? Because the original, I remember when the cloud came out and people were like, are you worried about putting your data on there? And like, say, yeah, it's true, it's a risk. It is, it's totally a risk. But I think people will calibrate that risk against the benefit that they see. For me personally, I don't care, like if my personal email gets read by ChatGPT, I'm like, I'm already copying and pasting it in there anyway, I don't really care. It just doesn't bother me, but I appreciate that that is subjective, and if I was running the Department of Defense, I would feel very differently, so it's, yeah. But I suspect you're going to find that in the same way Microsoft Windows or Apple Mac or whatever have access to lots of your data because they run the software on your computer, I have a feeling we're going to have the same kind of thing, but with AI. I think like AI is going to be like an operating system that everyone has, and they're just going to accept that like, we're probably going to have like walkable ear pods and stuff that listen to everything we're saying, and yeah, all of this, we're going to live in this weird world. I'm not sure privacy is going to survive it in the traditional sense, but we'll have to see. Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you for the talk, Oliver. Always a pleasure, but I have 2 questions. I think the first one is, what are your tips and best practices when creating agents? Because I see you have 5 there, and I'm curious if you're just, infusing specific prompts, or do you code them on the back end to satisfy specific tasks or needs? And the second one is, I'm looking into the voice thing, and it's absolutely awesome, but I know Whisperflow is not the only one, so I'm curious if you've had any takes on Whisperflow, Cartesia, Listen Labs, and Evertune.
Sure, I'll deal with those in reverse order because it's easier. I only personally use Whisperflow. It's great. I can't speak for the others. I'm sure there's a bunch. Your mileage may vary, but yeah, just try them. That's all I say. As far as writing agents, I actually used to do more complex stuff. If I'm using like Claude Code or whatever, it's worth it. But honestly, I get 95% of benefit out of just doing individual prompts and a lot of rules. So I find it's less. For me, it's less creating agents to be specialized, and it's more like I'll write a guide, and then I'll just say, oi, look at this, and then just get it to follow that. Because that way the knowledge gets shared. It's the cultural equivalent of having a Notion page for your employees that tells them how you want to behave. Just give that to your AI. In fact, you could actually do that. You could connect your Notion to your AI if you wanted.
So is it like more a guide?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it gets more complicated when you're doing multi-agent stuff. on the back end, but generally most of my stuff still ends up being front end led, if I'm being honest. So, thanks.
Actually, I had a similar question. You may have just answered it, but I was curious if you had any tips about sharing context across frontier models. A lot of these models, like I feel like the more you interact with them, the knowledge compounds, the context compounds, and yet ChatGPT 7.8 comes out and it's all of a sudden better, but it's lacking all the context you accrued in Claude or, you know.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things they're going to fight quite hard not to give you. So the early versions of ChatGPT had memories where you can still have this, where you can see the memories and you can copy and paste them if you wanted, right? But now, what they've done, very astute, but also useful, is ChatGPT just accesses everything you've ever said to it. It has the ability, right? So if you didn't know, so they changed that like 6 months ago. So that's great for them, because it's like, are you really going to move to Claude now? Are you going to lose all of those wonderful histories whining about your boyfriend/girlfriend? I don't think so, right? So, yeah, I think they're going to keep on to that because they don't want to make it easy to move. It's like a bank making it easy to move.
But you haven't figured out how to mitigate against it.
Keep the data portable. At this point, I've gravitated most into ChatGPT, but look, Claude's great, and it just depends what I'm doing. I use Claude for code mostly, and my personal life and stuff, and like a lot of business and strategy and research. I like the tools better in ChatGPT.
Yeah, so like,
that's a pretty good point. Actually, you've just reminded me, sorry, there is a feature in ChatGPT to export, if you want to, if you know, to your point about are you worried about AI, I'll give you the most terrifying thing. If you don't know this feature exists, you can go into ChatGPT and export all of your data ever. And it literally has every conversation, every message, every image, every link, everything you have ever done in ChatGPT, and it'll give you a nice zip file that's probably tens of gigabytes. So if you want the ultimate screw someone over hack, get on their computer, download the entire contents of their private brain in one zip file. Now that's far more terrifying to me, ironically, than giving ChatGPT the ability to talk about my email, although I appreciate both are pretty terrifying. But yeah, I suspect the horrors and things that are in an AI that most people have talked about, ultimately, if any of those leak, are going to be scary. It doesn't include their internal prompts. It's a complete log of every conversation you've ever had. But to your point, I bet you could export that and feed it into another AI. And I have, in fact, downloaded my own history, and I have used AI to analyze my. So this is a fun thing, but I had a partner in the past who wanted to use the dump of that to do a personality and IQ test on themselves and other people in order to try and figure out from what they'd been writing about. So that was fun. You can do that if you want. Something to vibe code. Sorry.
If you can export it, it means that you can also import it into the other model, so you can switch, right?
I think the difference is, well, maybe it might work. I think when you are having a conversation with ChatGPT, possibly Claude, it is building like a RAG database where it can kind of access and understand the history and all that kind of thing and just like pull it in a more effective way. I suspect if you just put it in a prompt, it's kind of like uploading a PDF. But you know what? It might work. It's worth trying. I haven't tried it.
Privacy-related question. So when you're using Granola, do you tell everyone in the meeting that you have an AI taking notes, or do you find that it's...
So as a CEO who's socially responsible and abiding by the necessary compliance requirements of whatever my lawyer's saying in my ear, yes. Honest. No. It genuinely depends. So I believe, I'm not a lawyer, but I believe that if you're, for example, if I'm doing it like a job interview, which I do, if I'm doing something like that, I absolutely will say, by the way, guys, so you know I'm going to turn this on, right? If I am with like someone who I've had 32 meetings with and they're used to it, so like my dev team, for example, at least one of whom's here, they know, right? They know I do this. So I don't feel I need to tell you every time, hey guys, I'm turning Granola on. But you know, at this point, my whole company uses it. Everyone uses it. It's great. So. Oh. One from the front.
On the topic of, you're saying like we're just these like monkeys transferring information, or if you're doing it the wrong way, right?
Well, speak for yourself, man.
What do you think about Johnny Ive and Sal Altman's upcoming product? Like, do you think it's going to be hands-free? It's going to be just like a little bubble.
So this is a really good question. So if you don't know, Johnny Ive, who was the Apple design head who invented like the iPhone and iMac and ton of other stuff, all the designs for it, and Sam Altman, who's the CEO of, by the way, you'd recognize Sam Altman at the beginning of that video, right? When he was doing the stand-up comedy routine with a robot. I nearly had him rap. I've got a video of Sam Altman rapping to a team of robots, but it seemed too much. But those two are partnering on building a new personal computer that's meant to be the sequel to the iPhone in a way, right? But no one knows what it is. They've not said. So the only things we know, they said that they want to kind of get us away from the hazards of the iPhone, or they didn't say iPhone, but the hazards of the smartphone. So you've got to think they're going to try and pull you away from the screen. But my guess, because that's now possible, my guess is they're going to make something between either a ring, probably not a ring, but it could be. So like, that's a computer, if you don't know. I love this, that is a computer, it's crazy, right? And like a week of battery life, and it does like your heart rate and your everything, it's crazy. I think it might be something like that. It might be like AirPods, or it might be like, I don't know, a strap you wear around your wrist, or something in that kind of space. But I think it's going to be a device that you just ambiently use, and it's going to record everything, and you're probably just going to be able to like attach it to a phone or a computer when you really want to read stuff. That's my guess. So I think it's going to be like the companion device that starts off as additive and they hope takes up more and more of the phone. But I don't think they're going to try and make something that replaces a phone, because if they did, they'll probably fail. Like, taking on the phone now is absolute suicide. But being the thing that could gradually take you away from it, I'd sign up for that. We'll see.
Follow-up question is, do you think there's, you were talking about how like a 3-year-old today, right, isn't potentially maybe taught to type the way that we were, right, in high school. It was like you had to take that class, to get through. At the same time, I think we are a part of a generation that was taught patience or like longer attention to like read and like research. And I wonder, regarding especially like people's attention span, especially like younger generations, if there's a disconnect in, you said something like, I can talk faster than I can type, but then I can read faster than I can listen, right? And I wonder if there's, like, I think there's people that don't want to read.
Oh yeah, no,
right. And so I wonder if there's like a generation between like, I don't know, older Gen Z, millennials that were taught to like consume data in a profound, deep way, that even though younger generations aren't taught to interface with technology the old way, they're not cognitively being taught to consume and judge information the same way.
So if I had to guess, I forget who said this, but the way we use a computer and AI right now is a little bit like when we used crappy computers with text only, before we had Windows and all those, right? Which is to say, we haven't got the user interface for AI worked out. I think the final form is not going to be chat. And I suspect what we're going to have is maybe you type, maybe you voice, whatever, but the screen is sometimes going to give you text. Sometimes I think it'll just draw images or create video or give you a 3D world you can move around or whatever. I don't think it'll be that stream for very long, right? So you might say something like, hey, I'm trying to create a design for this building and like upload something, and it might just show you, right? And then you can like move it around with your hands or whatever, and like have that kind of interaction. You know what? Iron Man isn't a terrible model for this. I'm not saying it'd be exactly the same, but the idea that you could like just move things with your hands or whatever it looks like. Those kind of interfaces weren't possible without AI. The computer couldn't understand what your intention is. But now, in theory, you could have like, here's my building, and I'm like, hey, I want to make this red, and it'll just know what you mean, right? So that kind of thing is probably where we're headed, but it's so out there, it's hard to even imagine right now. I'm pretty sure it won't be a chatbot for very long, though. So we'll see. It's going to be fun times. Here's a fun observation, while we're waiting for a new talk. Fun observation. If you look at every technology that's ever come by, there's an interim step that's not the final form that is comfortable. So like we had letters, and then we had to invent email. An email is just a letter with a bit of electronic stuff sprinkled on, right? We didn't go straight to Slack. We didn't go straight to Instant Messenger. Because if you had, people's brains would break. They couldn't handle it. Likewise, we didn't go from CD to streaming. We had to go through like MP3s. There's always that step. So I think right now, chat is the step for AI. Chat is the thing that people know how to do that gets them into it, and then there'll be a whole new thing we can't even imagine that will eventually make it look like dinosaur tech, is my guess. Sorry. Probably do one more question.
Hi.
Who wants to fight for that one?
Do you have any? Oh, I got you.
Okay, by the way, I'm still available afterwards. We'll just hang out. So.
Do you have any tips for handling this sort of unique cognitive load of parallelization, where instead of having that sort of deep work, deep focus sort of vibe, you end up having to go through a lot of different tasks, and it can be, I guess, a little more taxing?
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not going to be for everyone. And like, here's the thing, I like deep work. I'm really good at deep work, but I've found that I found a new sense of fulfillment in learning this. I think it's really difficult to explain because it's one of those things you almost just need to try. But sometimes when I'm just doing something that doesn't parallelize, so like this talk doesn't parallelize, right? I can't ask the AI to do 6 different things on this talk. Well, a little bit. I asked one to do some of the slides and some to do some ideas, but for the most part, I'm just focusing, and I just know I've got a super smart agent that has access to the context I need. So I've given it all the things I'm working on, and it's just like having a second person in a room. And that can still be great. Honestly, that can be great. I just think if your job is something that does parallelize well, then that's going to be key. Like code is such an obvious example because it turns out you can just do 10 times as much if you could have 10 workers working for you. But if you were making like a presentation and I had 10 people to work on this presentation, I'm not 10 times faster. So it doesn't always apply, I guess.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, guys. That's been great. Again, one more month. If you're not already signed up on Age of AI, luma.com, do that. And we'll email you when we have the next event decided. And I'd love to hear your ideas for what you want in the next talk. I'll stick around after. Thank you. Oh. Right.
Hey everybody, if we can have you start exiting, we can continue chatting outside, but just need to clear this space.